Well, good morning. Um, as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful Tuesday morning, June 18th, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and then, of course, the likes of you out there that make it your business to enhance and fortify this concept called public access. And of course, rightfully so, that we should feel fortunate and almost entitled by the very definition of what democracy and freedom is all about, even though more often than not it's been challenged over and over again, which is a good thing because it shows us that it withstands the um, the obstacles and the doubts and the second thoughts and whatnot that accompany every kind of a process that carries its valuable weight. In this case, is maintaining that coherence, social coherence, where we can um, express our thoughts and reservations, express desires to be a part of that creative process in general and the creative process that you want to create yourself and be responsible for. So that makes it easy, and also, of course, it just like the Constitution is expecting from us to think for ourselves and to add to um, the level of that deep conviction. I mean, you know that the Constitution could have not been written without that deep level of conviction on behalf of those who wanted to make it happen and make it work and also make it be that which makes sense and also in so many ways to last the obstacles of the generations, and not only that but also to become greater and to become fortified and show that strength for longevity and durability, and and of course it needs to be in one piece in order to serve its purpose. And the encounter between us and that kind of reality, especially if you're an artist, an active artist, because I believe we're all artists really, and that's not in a cliche way that I say that. The relationship between the daily, I don't want to say even every moment has that kind of uh, requirements. So your participation in that process is only guaranteeing you that you're going to find yourself being busy, just maintaining the basic aspects of your you believing in it, you believing in what it has to offer. Um, and also, then you know that you also will have to relate and address that which is super cliche, that which is there in order to please people, to please the system, to please society, to please the crowd, and nothing is wrong with that. When I'm a part of the crowd and I'm observing, I like to be pleased, and I like to be uh, um, actually the one that that I know that the system has me on its mind in more ways than one, for lack of a better word, has me on its mind. Just like if I look around and I know what my eyes and what my heart are kind of trying to 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 catch, to focus on, to concentrate in, and I know the reason why, and I know that I'm um, right, very good. Okay, so it's interesting how I can share with you reservations and enlightenments um, that has a direct relevance to, for example, yesterday I was facing a canvas of mine that's been on the easel for quite a while, longer, much longer than I'm feeling comfortable for it to be on the easel. You know, again, my creative process is not racing against time, but my a part of that process that I want to make sure is that I'm not wasting time just because I'm trying to, you know, when you're alone in your studio, you don't think about things then that when you're out in the street or out interacting with people, it's you yourself and you, it's there. No one is observing you, no one is critical of what you're doing, no one likes or dislikes what you're doing, no one is watching over you, no one is spying. No, there's no one there. It's just only you yourself and you, and and you want to uh, feel comfortable with that, with you, with whatever it is that you admit about yourself and about your character and about your personality and about how everything comes together when you have a level of conviction where you find yourself completely embedded within that reality, that situation, and feel comfortable with it and use it as a source to move forward, actually, in not only a timely fashion but a very efficient fashion. That canvas that I was what was it? It was like yes, it was 4 by 3 feet, yeah, 48 by 36. And I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I added those layers out of love, out of talent, out of technique, out of smarts, out of feeling, out of heart, out of mind. I'm talking about really, really, really trying around the clock to make it work. And every time, let's just say that in about 2 dozen layers, at least 25 to 30 layers that I did, each layer was like, okay, I like it more, and then I like it less, and then I like it more, and then I don't like it at all. Then I like it more, and then I like it less, and then I like it more, and then I don't like it at all. So yesterday it was in that I don't like it at all, layer number 30 or something to that effect. And um, so what I did is I went back to basics. I spoke here a lot about the fact that by being a drummer, I um, I understand what it means to turn to basics and to square one, because it's a part of a setup of uh, of dry practice, I call it, to keep your chops alive and going and agile and flexible and creative and fast and strong and whatever, and to make it last. Uh, so I understand it's second nature. It really is second nature when it comes to looking back and saying, I need some refuge. I'm going back to square one. I need some refuge. I'm going back to basics. You know, things like that are in my mind. I don't need to say the right lift left right it's like the right left right beginning. It's in my head is that right left right. And then for me that simplicity and complexity is one and the same, second nature. I literally had to utilize it by transforming to the drummer that I am. to the level of, or and the feel of that where that automatically a certain feeling and a certain state of mind kicks in, and it stays there, and it stays there as long as you are, whether in front of the drums or whether in that state of mind, immediately in your mind. You don't have to really hold the six and play. That desire, when it's clear, it will be answered. So all the group of that which goes along with it will become available to you. So here's the canvas, and I'm in the stage of almost layer number 30, and I don't like it at all. Went back to basics, and I know what to do. I did it with my eyes shut. I finished it while I was doing it. It was like I was at ease with myself. It's almost like it's a task. It's almost like this is a rare moment where I deal with art in the most unartistic fashion, dry and clear and straightforward, and there's a task to accomplish, to finish, and I'm just going to work through the process, and I'm going to a, a, allow my system to utilize whatever it is that it needs to utilize in order to survive this short period. And the canvas was so kind to me. I revealed it to myself this morning, and it was my knowledge all along through that process of a couple of months. Well, I shouldn't say a couple of months. I would say probably 5 weeks. Uh, that I had this uh, um, undecisive scenarios that made me think in certain ways, and it was always in opposition to the thing that I just thought about a minute before that. And my standard of belief was fluctuating and changing as I found myself having to deal with that, having to deal with that. Uh, and to maintain that level of conviction that you really believe in it, that other people out there, all people will understand that you believe in that, will feel that you believe in that. They will have no time or no reason in the world where they would have to doubt the moment, i.e., doubt you. It will be clear. And if they do, then or they don't, it will happen abruptly, it will happen suddenly, it will happen quickly. And pretty much whatever it is that happens at the beginning, usually it's believing that in that level of conviction of yours, because it's self-explanatory, and then it stays forever. It does never go away. I have people who saw my art like 17, 20 years ago, and they still approach me, and they still say, um, that wonderful show, and they give me the title from from 2007 was something that I cannot forget, will never forget. So there's an extension of proofs that never end. Even 20 years later, people will approach you and say, "You did something good." And I was a witness, and I still remember it. And that's how they want to say thank you. Every time you get people to engage in things that are either related to something creative or actually the very thing that one would want to achieve beyond the moment that dictates, maybe, I don't know, um, a reality of yeah, exactly. Oh my God, exactly. You just came in the sentence, the self lecturing about the reality that's becoming on behalf of the transition that took place just a moment before. And then you realize that the people out there in the crowd out there believe that you believe. Believe that I believe. They believe you that you believe. Oh. And then it never goes away. Once they believe you that you believe that you believe, they always do.
Oh, that's a good
It doesn't go
point.
away. It doesn't fade away. By the way, Justin Moore is here with us. Good morning. I
Hey,
mentioned it
buddy.
already, but you came in that bit just because I said that yesterday I had a revelation where I had a canvas that I've been engaged with it for much longer than
Mm,
my level of comfort.
right.
And then yesterday was layer number 30 between I like it more, I don't like it so much, I like it more, I don't like it so much,
Oh,
I
that's
like it more,
interesting.
I don't like it at all. Yesterday was I don't like it at all. I had to go back to basics by utilizing my being a drummer. Then when I find myself in these points of reference, I go back to square one, go
You
back
have to.
to and then immediately a set of whatever skills are coming to the surface and
Yes.
they're at my disposal. So I borrowed
Yes.
it and I took it to the canvas and I did it. This morning I revealed it. I said, it's done.
Yeah.
I rescued myself from that everlasting back and forth that was a little torturous, even when it was pleasant by nature.
Yeah. You choose to do it. You do it knowingly. It's much like our conversations.
And you know what? First of all, I want to congratulate you for the things that I know and the things that I don't know
No.
about you, as I found that yesterday.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
And I
man.
am
Thank
not
you.
surprised. Listen, I'm not surprised. I can't wait for you to be really famous,
Oh god.
cha-cha-chum,
Oh, thank you,
and that
friend.
we can,
Yeah.
do this.
That's pretty yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It has it was a really cool moment. So for the audience out there, what happened is that over the past almost year and a half, I was working with Chaz Pommelterry on filming his one man show of A Bronx Tale. And most people don't know, but some people do. But A Bronx Tale, before it was a movie that was first directed by Robert De Niro in 1993, it was a one man show that Chaz Palminteri was doing. And, it Chaz really wanted to film it in the way that Robert De Niro saw it first. This is like back in like 1990, like one or so, when Chaz performed it. And back then, it was just a bare stage with a chair, and he really loved the simplicity of it. Because after the film, after it like became very big and successful, he wound up getting like a set and a bunch of other things, and then there was a few other elements that came to it, and he used to travel with like a whole bunch of different set pieces and everything. And then he realized, he's like, I can just go back to doing something so simple with just the chair and then just keeping it black box like that. And that's what he wanted to film. That's how he wanted to film it. Um
It's a
and
scenario that poetry loves the most.
yeah.
What you just portrayed.
Yeah. I always think of it like a rocket ship. It's like it's I think art is kind of like a rocket ship. Once you get it right, don't stop adding stuff. I think it's easier to screw up at certain points. I think a lot of times people just want to add things and add things and add things, and then it winds up subtracting from the power of something. I think art has to have a very direct goal in what it's trying to accomplish. And it's interesting because it has to, like, for you, you have the benefit of the canvas. Your canvas, no matter how big it is, will always relatively be small in certain ways. Even if you were doing a chapel, you're still confined by the nature of the building. And the problem that is with film, but especially with digital, is that a lot of those limits in your mind have been taken off. It's very easy to do a lot of takes. You can always say, let's just do 100 takes of something. Well, how do you really know which one is the best one?
Isn't it
And
something to find out later? More like, I mean, the moment
some,
can dictate something, and
yeah,
then you
yes,
you
yes, and
have the
no.
luxury of knowing that you can go back to it later, kind
Well,
of thing.
you kind of do and you kind of don't. Like, for instance, if when we talk about the luxury of going back to it, the question becomes how? How do you go back to it? You can never truly return to anything. Things will always change.
But we will never know how many takes as the spectators. That's
Well,
what counts.
but you
Can
you
we
don't.
tell that? We can't tell that if it was one take or 100.
You can't tell, and that's an
And
interesting
so, what
point.
does that tell us? That it really almost insignificance.
Mm.
How many takes? Because we wouldn't know, and that's the way they want it to be.
No, it's inverted. It's extremely significant. The amount of preparation that goes into something. Care. If you had to describe care as far as the material actions of a person, it would have to be preparation and attention. That would be how you could tell a person cares or they don't care about something. And the thing with when you put something down on film, you choose to say, this is what I will keep for the duration of history as far as this piece goes. One of the problems is that right now there's so many remakes. Every film has a remake and a sequel and all this other crap that you, after a while, you lose the specialness of the story that you're telling. I remember so when it comes to this, it was interesting because Chaz had already done his performance. I saw his performance, his 1,000th performance of
Gee.
of A Bronx Tale, the one man show. He had done it over 1,000 times by the time
Yeah.
we hit there.
So that's poetry that's leading to prose.
Yeah,
And because you're an actor and because you have that photographic memory, now I'm talking about technical things,
sure,
you have
sure.
photographic memory, it comes into the equation.
Yeah,
I can see how he can enjoy it and feel rewarded 1,000 times more than being in front of the cameras, even though he had his wonderful sensations with that.
yeah,
But if we were to say that, for example, you want to deliver this message and whatever it takes, and there's the technical aspect of it, you want to, you know get over that with the least amount of price to be paid. You want to
yep,
be very focused, very technique oriented. You want to kind of get it over with. When I took my first course of production, all he said, the production manager, we really want to be on budget, on schedule, and that will take some really technical smarts here.
yeah,
And there are certain things that we know for sure if we're not going to do or going to do,
yeah.
it's going to take us there or not going to take us here. So the question is, how do you keep the soul and the heart eventually on the screen without us even detecting that any of such took place behind the scenes? I think that's the real art.
That comes down to making sure that you've done the preparation. You have to prepare. You have to go through, what do we need?
You mean kind of rehearsals? Kind
Mm.
of, kind of.
Well, in a way, like rehearsal is one idea, but
Do you
technical
prepare
specs.
for the generality of it, or
Mm,
every time all over again?
I mean, with a different film or
When
a
you
different
speak
thing.
of preparations and the value of it, with
Oh,
the
it
film,
has to be, you have a certain set of values that you have to hit. Like I knew I had to hit. Give me a second. So I knew that I had to, in this scenario, because I was cinematographer, I was producer, associate producer, cinematographer, and editor. Um, and then I share that credit with John J. Sheridan and Mike Lavin. So the three, like Sheridan and I were, for the most part, doing a lot of the cinematography and stuff like that. Lavin was with us when it came. Lavin was there on set, coordinating everything, making sure that everything was taken care of. He was kind of the conduit between the crew and Chaz. He was Chaz's like right hand on that in those scenarios. And then in the edit, we all kind of contributed what we were doing. But when it comes to that act of preparation, it for in this scenario, it was seeing his play a few times and understanding um, how best to execute it, because we did one live show with a full audience at the Paramount in Huntington, and it was really good. So initially, I wanted him to do it without a live audience. I want him to do it by himself. I tried to get him to be over here at LTV. I wanted to film it one guy, um, with one camera on a techno crane, and because that was like a crane that moves
It's kind of
in
going
and
back to square
out.
one,
Yeah,
going
because
back to basics.
well, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, it was an interesting idea, but the thing that it would have missed, and I'm happy that we didn't do it like that for this scenario, is that there's a lot of interplay between him and the audience,
Yes.
and we would have missed that.
Also, the nature of the play speaks for it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
and
know,
so
so
yeah, even though it would have worked in this scenario, it would have been a different piece. It wouldn't have been this, and in when somebody's done something over 1,000 times and they've refined it to what hits for the audience, I don't. I think that it behooves you to, in some ways, take the hands off a little bit and then to document.
yeah.
Um,
But I wonder also what's the too muchness of the experience itself is doing to him.
oh God, I mean,
I'm just trying to be playful
I
with this
I
question.
I think here's the thing though, is that like he is such a talented and amazing work ethic kind of person that
Vicious, yeah, I can only imagine.
he would have done it, like if we had the stage for longer, he would have done it again and again and again. There would have been none. You don't know. I mean, like, here's the thing that I've learned from Chaz, and so Chaz officially like kind of became our mentor. Like, Chaz is like, listen, guys, I'm your mentor. You can always call me. You can always talk to
I
me.
love it.
And he's just like,
Can I call him?
I no, I wish. Honestly, if he's out here,
Oh my
I would
god.
try to have you guys do something like
My
this.
knees are going to tremble. I
I
love
know,
it.
I know. He's pretty rad. And no, but what we did with him is that we started talking about what I saw from him is that he gets hyper focused. Hyper focused. He's
But he
probably
must go through um, dozens and dozens of feelings, and at some point he must ask himself questions like, when enough is enough? What is really going on? I'm sure about that. Were you aware of that? Is he
in this
expressing
scenario
that, or
in
is
this
it
yeah.
evident in the play?
In this scenario we had a time crunch. We had one day for a live show, and then after that we only had another 3 days for pickups and additional footage, which is not a lot for a film that is an hour and a half. For an hour and a half film, we had only 4 days to film all of it. And it's true, it is one man show, so it is theatrical, and there's a theatrical element to it, that does make it a lot easier. But as far as cameras, setting, resetting, close-ups, cutaways, all of the different work, getting all those things right and timed right, um it's still tough. It's still very tough. But we we crammed. We really didn't have a chance to over perfect anything. To, like, not over perfect anything, but like to overthink anything.
And that's the extension of your desire to create your own play and to bring to the surface something that you have like a deep conviction, scenario, feeling,
Yeah.
passion, and then I can only imagine. I mean, in scenarios like this, actually, you can be deterred more than inspired sometimes. You know what I mean?
I mean,
That you
yeah,
see excellence in action constantly. These professionals, they don't waver.
yeah.
They
It
they always up in an up motion. It's like it's very difficult to be able to relate to it.
it taught me a lot. The whole entire scenario taught me a
Yeah,
lot, because it was it was, you see exactly the amount of dedication that's necessary to make something great.
constant portrayal of excellence. I
But on
mean,
top of that, constant review, constantly like going back to something. Like, one of the best, one of the great experiences that I got from the play. So we edited the entire thing over the course of, I'd say, I want to say like 4, maybe 5 months, but it was like every Sunday. We edited it on Sunday. What we would do is, the guys and I would go. I'd pick them all up, and we'd hop in my Prius and we would drive up to Westchester, and
Amazing.
we go and we edit it at Chaz's house in his office. It's a beautiful office, and around us is he has all right, in the back there is a signed poster of Raging Bull from De Niro and Scorsese.
Love it.
There is Analyze This, Analyze That, Usual Suspects. Then we got there's a whole bunch of these amazing things all around him. He did a play with Pacino back in like the early 2000s. There's a lot of those elements all around you, and then at the very, just to show you how much like what the standard is, on his shelf there sits two boxing gloves behind a glass case. And
These were the gloves from the movie or the real gloves from the fight?
well, that's what I thought too, until my buddy John said, "No, dude, go check out the signature." And so I walk over and I look at the signature, and the signature is Muhammad Ali.
That's what I thought.
He's got Muhammad Ali's
Oh.
boxing gloves behind him. And I'm like,
That's a treasure.
yeah, dude. I'm like, wow. And like that, like, you're editing around all of these icons of things that you're surrounded by it, and so exactly what your quality is, what your standard is. But like, I don't know, there's an element there where it's such a good performance, and the story has been really honed over so many years, and it's his story. So it's, for me, it's an important thing to document, because that, for lack of a better term, that you're actually documenting a piece of American history as well as a piece of American art. That it's a very important interplay between those 2 points, where it's you're looking at the history of what this person has done. You're looking at the history of this guy, an autobiographical telling of the Bronx at that time in his life, of American history. And then he's lived out the play, and it's affected his entire life. So really, you can't describe Chaz without describing the play and describing the story. So that's the parts that I find very interesting. I find that to be very, very interesting.
And it's also taking a trivial story, really, because it is a trivial story. It's not that, I'm not to belittle it. When I say trivial, I mean it's one amongst many. It's almost like you go through a field and you're brushing through 200 ticks that each one of them can kill you. Yeah. Okay, so it's not like a special event. It's the you go there. That's what you're gonna.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if trivial. I don't know if trivial is the right word. I would say universal.
Yes, but trivial. If I was to refine my my meaning, it would be more like the big deal comes after your decision to do something with it. The big dealness of the concept itself is very mild.
That's an interesting take on that.
You know what I mean?
That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
So you're saying that because the story started, and this is 100% true, is that he did see a man get shot right in front of him when he was 9. Like that part where where the two guys are fighting over the parking space, and one guy, and the one guy takes a baseball bat, almost kills a man, and then he gets shot by a mobster. 100%.
How about show me one scenario that we can introduce to him that he will say, "I cannot do it." I don't think that exists. One option of whatever it is. Here's a story. Here's an 8-liner from whatever it is that I want to do. There's no way he might say, "I don't feel like doing it," maybe, but he won't say, "I cannot handle this." And also he's got what it takes to take that which is trivial and adamant and take it to heights that are second to none. because he brings his own personality, and for the most part, his personality will always overwhelm the material itself, the written material. It's not the other way around.
So I mean, so
Even if the writing is excellent.
so is what you're trying to say right now. That's an interesting idea. So what you're trying to say is that, and correct me if I'm off on this one for you, that circumstance is secondary to the artist that approaches the circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that I completely agree.
Very, you did,
Yeah,
now you took what I said and you summarized it beautifully.
that is what I try to do every day for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. and I don't even know. I don't even know about it. So that's the real beauty of it. But I said, what is it? You know, through the opposite, we assume the straightforwardness of bypassing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's what I wrote yesterday.
It is contrast that creates the picture.
Uh,
You, you only know what the value of one thing is by having another. You know, whatever is light on the page is only as light as what is dark next to it. You know, the frame, the contrast creates pictures, and that's what we see. We see that, and it's the artist that has the discerning eye to create the contrast. If you just have one person get shot and then show another bunch of people get shot, that's a different story, because that story is about the meaninglessness of violence and how there's violence everywhere, as opposed to a story where one person gets shot and you follow the ripple events of that one person getting shot and how it has affected every other person around them. Materially a different thing. Again, a point of discerning.
yeah.
You know?
But if I was to bump into him in the street,
Yeah.
I would be, of course, I'll be reluctant from approaching him or anything. I'll be, the moment will be greater than my understanding what it is that I should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But what is it attributed to? It attributed to my experience with this person, that he impressed me so many times, and I saw movies or whatever it is that I did, and they projected excellence and greatness,
Yeah.
and there was no doubt about it. So what does that tell us? It tells us that if if you're if you're an artist and you're really honest and you have your solo exhibition and people come and see it,
Mm.
and you know deep inside you that you did very well here.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many red dots are there. You did very well. No matter what happens, if you bump into these people elsewhere, when they see you, their association will be, this guy is not a loser.
Yeah.
But why is it important? Because, and that's what I promote to my kids when I said to my 15-year-old, by age 18, you can be a force that people will never attempt to bully you, because they know that you did already 4 or 5 solo exhibitions of paintings,
Yes.
and they will have second thoughts whether to bother you or not.
Or
Because,
you can become the exact opposite,
which
and
is,
the whole world will walk over you.
oh yes, but I don't say that as opposed to anything else. I'm just saying that, why do I believe that the world depends, and the longevity of this world depends on creative ordeals and engagement of individuals, of course with different levels of conviction, but still nevertheless painting paintings,
Mhm.
playing music, writing and all this. But when they look at you, they immediately, that department in their memory brings all these images, and I'm not gonna mess with this. Why would I mess? Why would I have any desire to ridicule myself right now? And that's
No.
exactly what they know that they're going to be doing if they were to attempt to belittle you or play
Exactly.
head games with you, or up to no good.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's a great thing to be aware of.
well, and when you're talking about the idea that you have to have whatever artistic achievements are necessary for the survival of the if the species, I completely agree with you. I often think about art like a building block for society. Um, every good piece of art, and even the bad pieces of art, what they allow us to do is they allow us to see the tracks that another person has walked. They give us a way through. I would say for me there's three kinds of art that when I look back at my life that I always go back to. Right. I would say there are there's for not to get overly poetic, but I would say that there are stars, wells, and markers. And if you're in the wilderness, you know how valuable those things are. A star would be a general marker, a general point where you don't know exactly, you will never reach it, but you know that you're heading in the right direction by just looking at it. I know that
And it's also telling you where you are at, kind of thing, you know.
exactly. I see this star right here and I see this star over here, which means I'm in this part of the hemisphere and I'm heading in this direction. And there are certain pieces of art that you look at and you're like, this is where I want to go. There's markers. Like a marker is like when you're on a trail. Now, stars are great, but when you're on a trail, sometimes you really need a direct marker to let you know what point of the trail to another point of the trail. So you can rely back on things technically. You can look at an artist and say, well, I know that from a technical standpoint, that they were using, I can use Kubrick a lot like this. I know that there are certain lenses he was using. I believe he was a big Zeiss fan. So it had a very sharp edge. It was edge to edge, very sharp. Um, and I know how he lit it. I know that he was using a Polaroid camera to make sure everything was taken care of as far as exposure of light. And I can go back to him and I can look at things technically. And I can just pull from that technical well. Fincher's the same way. You know what I mean? I can look at how Fincher does something, or I can look at there's a variety of other cinematographers. There's also directors and cinematographers that I look at as markers. They allow you to see exactly how to mark things out. Um, a star it would be something like Apocalypse Now for me because it's what's the direction that it's going in. What's something that I can always go back to it where I'm like, man, that was such an interesting kind of movie about what was he trying to say? What was he pushing forward into? And I have different takes on it every few years or so. I have a new take on the Apocalypse Now. I believe Apocalypse Now is actually the venture from obscenity. You start off in obscenity and you're venturing into morality.
Hmm.
People think that you're going backwards in time into a savage area. No. You're going into morality in Apocalypse Now. You start off at the most immoral place, which in that case would be the illusion of being in Saigon or some other place where it's like pretending that everything's okay and having a Coca-Cola and seeing a movie and getting drunk and then eating all of this huge massive amount of food in a war zone where people are being shot up and tortured not even 20 miles away from you. You choose this. You choose to escape into an act of obscenity. And then as you go forward, you finally meet at the head of the river, you meet the man who they already said earlier on was the moral man.
Yeah.
And he's the one actually living with the consequences of his actions that you put forward on him. He's the only one doing it.
Yeah.
So in that case, you're venturing into morality.
Yes.
So,
but that's why they say in Auschwitz they gave people 72 hours to become dehumanized.
yeah.
And it's amazing how, to what extent, and it's amazing that it's true, even if it wasn't Auschwitz,
Yeah.
that you can degrade someone to become, pretty much nothing, hollow.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly.
Stripped from everything.
Yeah. You're gone.
Yeah.
And then you have, so that's like, for me, that's a point where I always look at it. I'm like, that's a true piece of art because you always look at it, you change, your idea changes about it. And then you have a well. And a well is something that you go to and it pulls something out of you. You know, like every time I watch Tarkovsky's Nostalgia is like a well to me because I
You mean a
don't
whale, like a water whale?
like a water
Yeah, yeah.
well.
Okay.
Like
It's
I
also
pull.
wishes,
Mm, that's an
placing a
interesting
wish.
point. Oh wow, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. What about the coin? Make sure you have
There
coins.
you go. That's a good thing. You have to pay your your dues.
Yes,
But
because
no,
you're allowed if you for
yeah,
for
there you
certain
go.
to be answered.
Yeah,
So
but no, like that to me is like something like you always go to and you pull something out of. Like I can't go in that direction because it was Tarkovsky's direction. We have a different culture. We have he was from the Soviet. He came at things completely differently. But there are so many things in there, and there's poetry to him. Like his greatest influence wasn't other filmmakers. His greatest influence was Pushkin, was poetry.
oh yeah,
So
oh yeah.
so it's like you go back to it and you're like, oh, okay, that's the
You
well.
know what's Pushkin's first name?
No, I don't.
Haim.
Really?
Yeah.
You could be lying to me right now. I
Is
still
he-
believe you. You can lie to me right now.
Well, I'm not.
You could.
It's his Hebrew name. Now I love it. He's gonna Google it. I'm in trouble. Google it, please.
I'll Google
It's
it.
Hebrew, as you said. What's Pushkin's Hebrew name?
Interesting. What is Pushkin's Hebrew name?
So, amazing. Solomon, whatever. George, Bill Pushkin.
Bill Pushkin. I'm sorry, buddy. It wasn't Haim.
Who was it?
It was Alexander Sergeyevsky Pushkin.
Hebrew name.
Okay.
Alexander
Okay.
is
Okay. Pushkin.
Hebrew name.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I made it up. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I
You
didn't.
totally freaking
No,
made it up.
Listen, I speak Russian. I know a thing or two about Pushkin.
He was not Jewish.
Well, not that you know of.
No. I got this from JewOrNotJew.com.
No, I'm in real trouble.
I'm
This
like,
is not just
I'm like,
a
not for
minor
nothing,
trouble.
everybody. You can Google it. JewOrNotJew.com apparently says
Oh boy.
otherwise.
So
Verdict was sadly not a Jew.
who's? Oh yeah.
Pushkin, sadly not a Jew.
Well, there's certain things they don't know. So it's called like Жизнь прожитни полиперити.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Yes, Google it.
I can't. How the heck would I Google that? How would I? With like what? With crosses through the O's?
So just body gestures.
Hey, how close, by the way, is the Hebrew language to Russian?
You know what? By complexity, they're almost the same, except that Hebrew has one thing that Russian doesn't have, and it's plural feminine.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's the only thing.
Interesting.
Because it has plural masculine and the adjective, the number, everything changes accordingly. The Russian language has 6 cases, and Hebrew language has 7 cases.
That's fascinating.
So it's what is it? The nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, prepositional, instrumental.
Interesting.
These are the 6 cases of Russian.
Ah.
So in Hebrew, whether you believe it or not, feminine, masculine, plural, everything. It's all by definition. You don't say you. You say you. You know who they're relating to.
That's
exactly.
Fascinating.
And so, but yeah, going back to you mentioned Pushkin, because Pushkin was beloved by all the band member that I played with. Oh, yeah. They were like from the Volga River.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They used to recite his poetry and whatnot, and it was all over the place. So, so they were the ones who informed me that his first name was Haim. And since then I didn't question it, and I accepted it as a.
Listen, man. We all have those moments. We all have those moments.
I cannot. I don't want to compare myself to him. He's a legend. He's like we're speaking of. We're speaking of the magnitude. I mean, can you imagine sitting next to this guy?
I couldn't.
The vibrations. all the things that you feel and happening without even one word is being uttered.
Yeah, I mean, poetry is you can argue that it's the highest form of literature is poetry. I remember I was hanging out with a bunch of different writers. I film writers on a regular basis. I film like actors reading short stories. Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's good. We got 10 minutes.
We got
That's
10
good.
minutes.
Perfect.
So I film actors reading short stories on a regular basis. And years ago, we were at this party afterwards, and we're all talking. And the one thing that they all agreed on was they wish they could write poetry. And they all talked about how poetry. They're like, man, poets just they get it. They have it tuned to a sense where they can use language in a way that is so it's magical. It's like an act of like casting a spell or something, because you're not like for instance, a novelist. They have to go through their entire novel to convey emotion, whereas the poet only has a handful of stanzas and they're
Yeah.
able to do it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an insane moment to think about that. So guys
Yeah.
like Pushkin, you
Yeah.
carry it with you.
Pushkin would adapt a level of sophistication into
Yeah,
his immediate expression
yeah,
so immediately. He doesn't wait. He
yeah,
gives you all he got like in one take, and then it doesn't stop. But
yeah.
but that takes me, because I wanted to ask you, what was the first thing that people ask when they come to a great archer and they say, "Oh, it's beautiful." They say, "Who hung it?" That's a question that they mainly, almost at the very beginning, want to know.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah,
I've never
very.
thought of that.
It's very important to them, because their remark will be, "Oh, it's hung so beautifully. Who hung it?" They belong before they relate to the paintings and all that. So it's important for them to. Uh, that's why when I learned this fact like 15, 20 years ago,
Hmm.
immediately I realized that it should be to my benefit to intentionally overwhelm the potential spectator with quantity, taking quality for granted.
Hmm.
So that means I have no question that my work is quality. The
That's
paintings are
interesting.
good. I love them. And when I love them and they please me, I know that they're good. I know they're going to be accepted as such. So
That's
now I want
interesting.
to baffle you, and I want you to deter you from attending to my paintings immediately, because usually you'll get it wrong, or you won't be accurate, or giving you time to enjoy the magnitude of what you see. Like, wait a second, so much stuff. So immediately, if you know a thing or two about it, you know that, wait a second, this is not normal, this is not usual. So you
But
sp-
what you're doing in that scenario, by going through that mindset, you're almost creating, in a way, a sacred space to appreciate.
yes,
In the same way that when you enter a cathedral or any or a place, you are overwhelmed
yeah,
by the beauty of
yeah.
it.
what
That's interesting.
what did it take to make that?
Mm-hmm.
Not what was made. What was made, that it's good. That's for later. But you, and what they will remember 10 years later is the composition.
Yeah.
That show was so. They won't say, "Oh, that painting in the left corner was awesome." They say, "That show, man, forget about it."
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's interesting, because like that more points to that otherworldliness of it, right? Because you're taking your labor, you're taking your effort, your skill, your talent, and you're now creating a space by the relatively, and I'm not diminishing it. You are expertly executing a simple task. To put something on a wall I can hang anyone can hang a picture badly. Anyone can hang a show badly. Takes no talent to hang it badly. But the power is in, can you do it well?
Yes, but you know, it just gave me wow, it just gave me an idea. Incredible. You said everybody can hang something badly, correct? But if you leave it on the wall, it will be brilliant.
Interesting.
Let's
That's
just say you
interesting.
hung. Let's say I take someone from the street and I said, come, I'm having a show tomorrow. I have a few pictures, 20, 30. I'm going to go have lunch. Here, are nails and all this. Please, as you please. Okay. Now, let's just say that I'm going to come. Of course, I'm going to say to myself, I'm going to be disappointed. It's not going to be whatever it is that I feel at that moment. If I decide to leave it on the wall, that's where you
Interesting.
triumph in actually accepting it and coming to people will come in. They won't say, that's terrible. They would say, wait a second, we need to keep quiet here because we don't know what's going on.
Interesting.
We need to figure things out before we open our mouth. And many people were trying to intimidate me or to second guess me. And I learned about it quickly in the scenario of having solo exhibitions that I said, I must make people feel in a certain way immediately when they enter the gallery. When it's my show and I'm responsible for all the stages, or even hiring someone to work with me. But I want them to not say what they want to say, usually what they're used to, what they expect from themselves, hearing themselves say immediately. That they will be taken back, and then something else happens that is unusual for them also, and that will always work to my benefit. Why? Because then when time comes that they're landing and they go to the whatever artwork that you have, oh man, their attention span and the level of their tolerance, there. So you're in good hands. So there's a healthy discussion. It's not like they're going to say, "Oh, this is what." There will be a discussion, and people will be less reckless, more open to learn something new, and coming with wonderful questions. You know, not like how long did it take you to do that? Questions, really.
Yeah, people change. I change my attitude 100%. I change my attitude when I'm in a place that's been um, created with purpose, and I know,
I love it. Created with purpose. I'll
yeah,
remember that.
and I know for a fact that I also change my attitude when I'm walking through a place that wasn't like I got no respect for a sidewalk that no one cares about down a street that's just nothing but strip malls. Why would I? You didn't have the respect when you made it. You were just putting some stuff together. And that's the weird tragedy of it is that you know that everything there will have very little meaning because it was built to be forgotten as opposed to something that was built with dedication and with purpose because that purpose is inherently meant to be remembered.
That's very well said, but we could also take it and elevate it to become something that we
Mm.
were hoping to see, and we're aiding it, and we're actually bringing together all the forces. And instead of kind of instinctively belittling anything, we're actually fortifying it and erecting it into heights that makes everyone happy. But I just wanted to say we're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here this Tuesday morning, June 18th, year 2024. Jason Moore is here with us. God bless. Jason, I'm definitely going to give you the last word.
There is none.
So that's it. Okay. Okay. He knows I love him.